Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and tonight my guest is going to be Jessica Potter, the Mermaid Medium. She'll be here in just a couple minutes. I sent the link to a different page of hers, and it didn't go to the right one. So she'll be here in a minute. And also, tomorrow night, join us at 5 p.m. Central when we have on Hill City Paranormal on Paranormal Nation Radio, Not So Normal. And we're going to talk to Sean and Courtney again. And this time we don't have a topic. So please make sure you bring your questions. And, we're going to be having a good time talking about everything paranormal. So, oh, look, now I look brighter. So, hey, Susan. So, but yeah, I'm just waiting for Jessica to show up. And you going to say hi?
Hello. What is that?
It's stupid Facebook.
Yeah. Well, I always know Facebook's stupid.
Ron sees something on my Facebook, and it's your stripper name is, and he thinks I'm actually paying attention to it. It's just the first thing that showed up when I sent Jessica a link. So let's see what is my
Susan and Mike.
So let's see what's it say. My stripper name is the color of your underwear and the last thing you ate. So we'll just go with purple shrimp. Not going to be good. So if anybody else wants to share, please do. So
we have way too much time on there.
Good. And thank you, Karen, for taking Lacey back to the airport. I'm just so happy that you guys got to spend Mother's Day together. So that made my day. So, and my guest has finally showed up, and I'm grateful that she's here. So, hello, Jessie.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Do you have a good trip?
Oh my gosh, yes, amazing trip. It's still like zombie stage.
Well, I wouldn't have been surprised if you didn't make it.
No, yeah.
So,
as long as it's not health stuff holding me up, I'm good.
So where did you go this time?
Oh man. So started out, went to Texas for a night, saw my best friend, then went on to Tombstone. I worked a 3-day event there. Then Bisbee, worked a little investigation there with at the Copper Queen, and then went on to visit family in Tucson. Then on to Queen Mary to visit friends that work on the Queen Mary, Becca and Aiden Sinclair, if you guys know who those people are. Stayed there for 2 nights, then drove back to Tucson, spent more time with family, and then Texas. Then got caught up in the storms right when I hit Tennessee. And my friend texted me and was like, well, come on down to Georgia. So I went down to Georgia, saw family, and then, a lot of driving.
Yeah, I can see that. We had our area was on the Weather Channel today for tornadoes and stuff.
Oh, Arkansas was crazy. I was pulling in, I got caught right at the corner, cutting through Arkansas to Georgia with the storm, and I went to pull in a gas station. Right as I was coming up the hill, the roundabout, it got struck by lightning. And from my arm on the door, I had a rash on the inside of my arm, and I could feel it burn a little bit. But some guy got struck by lightning, and thank God he was fine, but it scorched his arm. It knocked him out of his truck. It was crazy.
Hard to believe. I know somebody who's been struck by lightning twice.
Wow. I've heard that that's a weird thing that happens.
I think once you get hit, you become a lightning rod.
Something. Yeah.
Right after
the same time or 2 different times?
Yeah. One of the times since we moved here, one of the sheriffs was driving down the road and his car got struck by lightning, and everybody assumes that rubber will ground you.
Mm-hmm.
He was fine, but the car was fried.
Wow.
So the rubber thing,
not
help.
Yeah, where it struck on top of where you get your gas, and it spread probably 20 feet and then blew out the power. It went just wide and huge. It was crazy. It was a really crazy storm. but it looked like they were going to have tornadoes because I kept seeing like funnels. It was really scary. I was like, oh, I'm so ready to get to Georgia.
Yeah. And then of course they get hit too.
Yeah, thankfully it was just a little bit of rain, so it wasn't too bad at all. Like I just had to drive slow. Some parts had to slow down, but wasn't bad at all. Got very
At least you weren't down here today, because there was accidents everywhere, and I thought I was hearing a tornado siren, and I'm listening and I'm going, that's not a tornado siren. He goes, how do you know? And I said, because you could hear the horn honk on the fire truck. So you can hear the sirens. It sounds just like the tornado siren, but it was the honking to get the cars out of the way that did it. And we live right on a main road that's between the hospital and everything else. So so it's just really very noisy. But for us, living in the Midwest for all these years, I heard the sirens, and the first thing I go is tornado.
Yeah.
And I open the door, and so tornado. What do? I go open the door outside
to go look for it
to see what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'm listening, and I go, okay, that's not that kind of siren. Plus, we have really tall trees.
Was it tsunami?
We wouldn't have seen it.
Was it?
It was just somebody had an accident. People were hydroplaning everywhere from the flooding.
Wow. Yeah.
So
hydroplaning is what scares me. That's what took me like longer to get home, because I was supposed to get home. I think I'd planned initially last Tuesday I was supposed to get home. But yeah, I was like, I'm not messing with, like, there was a massive storm that rolled in. I'm like, I would be driving in the rain all the way back from Texas on. And I was like, I'm not dealing with that,
It would have been stressful for you, believe me. I understand.
And exhausting. It was 22 hours from Texas back to Virginia, and then Tennessee. Tennessee is a place I'll never mess with water, because there was one time I was caught in a really bad rainstorm, and we were watching bridges collapse, like up, we're like up high on this bridge, and the other side started collapsing and all the water started pouring off. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then we're getting notifications on our phone that this road's out, that road's out. That was so stressful. I was like, not going through this again.
Oh yeah. Been there, done that too. But we, because we were driving from Kansas City, we drove to Vegas a bunch of times. So I know that the trip that you took was extremely long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the desert part. It's not too bad, but then having pots, it's like every time with the low desert, it would set it off for some reason. And I was like driving at one point, and I was like, man, I feel really, really tired. Like I could take a nap right now. And then I was like, uh-oh, my BP's dropping. And sure enough, like my heart rate like way picked up, and then like I come out and like it would level out. And I was like, okay, like I'd have to eat something, start drinking my salt water. And I'm like, this is fun. Learn how to travel with that and actually pay attention to altitude changes.
Well, there are some places, people, will tell them, that it snows in Arizona, and they look at you like, no, it doesn't. It's like Flagstaff, Williams, all these places. And it's hard to believe, like Gallup is almost 8,000 feet above sea level.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't think about New Mexico being just high desert.
Yeah.
You're not driving, you're not doing this, but you are doing this the whole way from Kansas. You're just going up.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the coldest nights I spent in the summertime were in Gallup, New Mexico, where we come in to the hotel, it's 70 degrees. And by the time we go out to eat dinner, it's 30. The next morning, we're scraping ice off the windows, and it's 80 degrees by, 10 o'clock. It's like New Mexico's weird. So is Arizona.
I was actually born in New Mexico in Albuquerque.
Oh.
Yeah, and then we lived there twice because my dad's military. So we were like stationed there again when I was around second grade, third grade. So some of it I remember, but yeah, the temperatures drop like crazy. And then, during the day, it doesn't take long before it picks up.
Yeah, Albuquerque is weird.
Yeah. It is a lot of energy there. Like going back there now that, I'm paying attention to my mediumship, I was like, man, no wonder I experienced so much weird stuff growing up, It's definitely crazy.
It is a different feel.
Mhm.
We stopped there a couple times just to eat at the Cracker Barrel. Okay. And once we stopped to eat at Whataburger because it was the closest Whataburger to our house at the time, was in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
And it was 110 degrees and they wouldn't let us eat in the restaurant because of COVID.
Oh, that's frustrating. So you had to sit in your car.
No, we actually sat outside in 110 degrees and ate our burger that couldn't get cold or wouldn't get cold. But yeah, they'd let 8 people. You could have 8 tables. That was it in the whole place.
Wow.
So, and it's like, I got mad and I told them off that day. But
Was
that's
it
when I
they
found
closed
Blake.
the tables in between?
Nope, just 8 tables, and they said this one. Yeah, and it was huge. It was a really big one. It was across from a casino in Albuquerque.
Supposedly sign your name.
Oh yeah, we had places like in Las Vegas, New Mexico. We went into this one restaurant on this trip because we went to the haunted part of Las Vegas, New Mexico, and we stayed at the Plaza Hotel. And we go to this Mexican restaurant, and they go, "Well, you need to sign in." It's like, it's an outdoor restaurant. Why do I need to sign in? So Mercedes Chocolate signed in as opposed to Denise Pridemore.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if you're not checking my ID, I don't care. I signed it. I made stripper names for every place we went.
Why would they have you sign in?
They just, because they wanted to know.
They're idiots that run the state.
Yeah, because New Mexico was weird. They were having people sign in every place they went. If you were there more than 10 minutes, you had to sign in.
That is so weird.
Yeah. And so needless to say, I didn't buy a lot of stuff in the stores because I wasn't signing in. As soon as I found that out, it was a turn around and left. But
stripper names after a while.
Yeah, I did. I did run out of stripper names after a while. Yeah. Maybe I should have looked on Facebook to find out what my stripper name would be based on the last thing I ate in the color of my underwear.
Yeah, that one. That would be funny.
Yeah, I should have used that one. Ron just said I should have used Nancy Pelosi. We are from the same hometown.
Really?
So,
where's she from? Where are you from?
Baltimore.
Oh, really?
Her father used to be one of the governors or something something related to the state. Long time ago, before I was born.
Makes sense. So she learned a lot growing up.
Oh yeah, it's a great place to live.
Yeah.
Actually, it was a great place.
It makes me sad now going through it, like all of the historic buildings and just seeing them like up for lease or for sale and falling apart. And I'm like, and just thinking about how they could have people living in there, like it just needs so much work. It's sad.
It does. So I remember back in 1980 that all the downtown buildings, the row homes near the Harbor Place. So Harbor Place wasn't there. It was all empty. And you had McCormick's right there across the street from where Harbor Place was. So it smelled excellent. So all you smelled was cinnamon and vanilla and, all the different spices, so we had probably the best smelling downtown anywhere. But those houses, my grandfather actually owned one of them, and they got, basically they all got condemned. The city sold them all for $1. Each building was $1. And if you bought the building, you had to put $10,000 in it within a year to refurb it. So one of the apartments that I lived in when I was born, my parents paid $25 a month for this apartment that could, from the windows, you could see the harbor. In 1982, it was renting for $2,500 a month.
Wow. That is
So,
insane.
but they did all this work, and I don't know if all the work that they did is still intact or whatever. But I mean, I have pictures of me in my little swimsuit when I was a kid, and playing in my swimming pool on the roof of this apartment building.
Yeah, you should look it up and see.
So
Like, I wonder what it is now.
I don't know. I'll have to look it up. It's on my shot record.
Yeah,
When
that's
your
crazy.
baby ID card is your shot record.
I still
But,
have my first military ID card from when I was 10. They just had to punch the hole through it, but I kept as many as I could all through the years.
so how many bases did you live at?
Oh man. So I was born in Albuquerque. Then we got stationed in Iceland because my dad was Air Force helicopter pilot. Then Alaska, my sister was born. Then back to Albuquerque, back to Alaska, and then met my husband up there. First husband lived in Germany, Landstuhl for a bit, and then moved. When I divorced him, I moved back to Alaska, and was husband number 2, and then was trapped at Fort Bragg for 13 years. Yep, 13 years. And then when he got his job up here, that's where we moved up here, and he would travel down to be with his National Guard team. We loved our team there. They're like family, so stayed close to there.
Well, we have a whole bunch of outlying fields down here for the Navy. So we've got Air Force Base to the south. We've got, like I said, all the outlying fields. We probably have 9 or 10 different airports around here.
Mm-hmm.
So the other day we had a bunch of planes. I guess they were flying west.
Yep.
Yeah, they were flying west, and they weren't Blue Angels. So it wasn't for fun.
Yeah, and you're in Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've moved since the last time we saw each other.
Yeah. Yeah, you made that big trip down there.
Yeah, it's been huge. So,
and
I know you're glad to see that I'm alive. I made it through my surgery.
And you're looking good. Your color looks really good. Are you feeling
what
good?
Everybody keeps saying.
Yeah, it's interesting, like how much it's changed, like your color. Because I didn't notice before, but it's like, yeah, I'm noticing like your color looks really good.
I don't know if that's from going to the beach yesterday and getting windburn.
A little bit. I mean, only on your nose is a little bit red, but your color overall.
Yeah, that's from this probably getting sunburned and windburned at the beach. So we went to the beach yesterday, so it was a nice Mother's Day.
Yeah, I miss the beach.
So, and I saw that your daughter had prom not that long ago.
Yep. Yeah, she had prom while I was gone. Like, we couldn't get the dates for the longest time, and then they released the date with her high school, and I was like, man, it's while I'm gone. So I had my hairdresser. I was like, can you do her makeup? Because I normally do her makeup. That's something I love doing. So she came out and did her hair, makeup, so that way she could have fun and just relax and get to enjoy it. But yeah, that was her huge thing. That, like, she'd only returned to school after her spine surgery, I think 2 days before that, and she couldn't even make it through a full day because she can't sit upright for that many hours because of her shoulders, like the way they had to repair them, and she's having to rebuild that muscle. So yeah, that was huge. With her dress, she was like, yeah, I want my back showing, I want my scar showing, like, and she danced for 3 hours straight and loved it. Yeah, she did. She had a great time, which that's huge. That's a huge accomplishment for her, like with how much pain she was in this last year. So
yeah,
it's amazing.
And just knowing that she couldn't hardly stand up for days.
Oh, in the hospital? Yeah. Directly after the surgery? Yep. Because medications, everything messing with her blood pressure. It was very scary.
Yeah. I was worried about you. I was worried that you weren't going to get enough rest.
Yeah, I barely rested that week. I think I did little cat naps here and there. Other than that, just, when I could sleep, when she was sleeping, and Well, I mean, she was sleeping a lot to the point where I started noticing something was wrong. I wasn't getting much sleep. So there's probably like 2 days where I didn't really sleep, and then how sick she was. And just trying to pay attention to every single thing that they're giving her to see what reactions happening when she's getting sick and stuff like that. And then finally finding out that they gave her something we're both extremely allergic to, and somehow that got changed on her paperwork because they were supposed to give her stuff in the hydrocodone line, like Vicodin, but they were giving her Oxy, and her and me are severely allergic to Oxy. So that's what was causing her to be non-responsive. It was terrifying. So
yeah, they're at least starting to listen to us parents when we say one of us is allergic to this.
Mhm.
We'd rather our child not have it.
Mhm.
You know, I just had this conversation with my sister yesterday. I said, don't take Lipitor because mom was allergic. I'm allergic. And she goes, I'm allergic. She goes, I found out when I was in the hospital that I was. I said, well, that would have been nice for you to have told me and mom before we ended up on it at one period in time. And my grandkids, 2 of them can't use penicillin because their dad's allergic.
Yeah, I'm allergic, extremely allergic. Penicillin and sulfa almost took me out. Sulfa, really bad reaction.
That's going to make it hard on you later on. But I know that we talked after your daughter got out of the hospital, and I appreciate you calling me and talking to me, and I know you appreciated me listening too.
Yeah, a lot going on. Like, it's a crazy time right now.
Oh yeah, I will tell you, it was funny. The doctor, they were late starting my surgery because they had to go outside to look at the eclipse.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh, that's funny. That was
You know, it was even funnier is I brought the glasses from when we did all the eclipse watching in Atchison in 2017. I had them in my car, and we had just bought a new car, and I put them in that car to take to the hospital. And before we went in the hospital, I'm going, nothing. Nothing. And so I gave them to Ron, and I said, here's the glasses in case you want them. And he ended up sharing them out on the roof with all the people that were out there looking at the eclipse while I'm supposed to be having surgery.
Yeah. So you didn't get to see him at all. They didn't let you go have fun.
Nope. They already had me sedated, and they had me tied down to the table. What was strange is that they didn't give me an IV. I thought that was kind of odd. I'd never been in the hospital without an IV before, but you know,
you mean after?
No, during.
That's
they didn't.
I know
They put in
shortage.
Well, they put in the thing. You know, they put in the port, and of course, they told me I couldn't eat or drink anything, and they're trying to get this all started, and they can't figure out why it can't start. It's like I'm dehydrated.
Yep.
You know, you told the guy that comes in at 8:00 that he can't drink after midnight, and you told me the same thing, and it's 2:00 now. You know.
Yep. That's what I hate. I have really bad veins. They collapse. They don't last long. And yeah, and I hate when they start too high up. I'm like, when you start with the elbow, I'm like, you're gonna mess it up. Like when I'm getting admitted in the hospital, I'm like, you're gonna have to start with my hand or my wrist and make it happen, because like as you blow that vein, it makes my whole arm swell really bad.
That was the problem. I got back in the operating room. They had already started one in my arm. And I had been in on Saturday to have blood work done before the surgery. And they blew my vein on this side. And it had to be on this side. And as they're looking at it, you know, they're going, we can't even give you an IV. And here I am getting ready to have surgery, and they're having to start a new one.
Yeah.
A new thing to give me medicine in. And it was like, it's 50 degrees in there. I'm freezing my ass off.
Yeah.
And
I hate when we do that with surgeries. Like, always do the prep outside the room. Like every surgery I've had where they've done it there, it makes my anxiety so much worse. And then you're shaking and miserable.
Well, they had to take all these big pads. They had to make basically me the CAT scan machine. So they had to put all these pads all over me so that they could monitor my heart the whole time. And so all that cold gel stuff from the sonogram type gel.
Oh.
So imagine that at 50 degrees.
Mm-hmm. Well, one time they started cleaning me with iodine in there. And then they were expanding everywhere. And I'm like sitting there shivering. I'm like, gosh, knock me out for this.
Well, when I woke up, I had iodine everywhere.
Yeah. No, they started it early. And I'm like, what are we doing? Okay. Like I get the like prep wipes. Sometimes they have you like pre-clean with those. But this was like they were dunking it and starting to put it on me. And I'm like, knock me out already. This is crazy. And then my gallbladder removal, I remember that. I was like, it is freezing in here. And the nurse was like, oh, honey, you're not going to remember. And I was like, yes, I will. And that was the first thing I said when I woke up. I was like, I remember how cold it was in there. I remember.
I remember that too. It was cold. Like I told them, I said, you guys keep it at 50 degrees so our blood doesn't flow out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. Like act like they're putting us in a ice box.
One of the funniest things that happened this time was one of the nurses was going through and introducing everybody to me. Okay. They all have on masks. I can't see them. I'm not going to remember any of this. And I looked at her and I said, there's no need to go through this. I said, I'm not going to remember any of them.
Yeah.
So don't waste your time. So, but
one
that
of the
was
best
one
things
of the
that happened to me with like this POTS thing where my heart rate would go just nuts. So they had me go like all night not eating. And then the next morning they were doing a upper endoscopy and the guy was so sure that I was eating too many carbs and sugar and I was doing, I was like triggering something. And I said, nope. And I said, I can tell you I'm building for an episode right now because I'm starting to feel like I start feeling like crap and it just grows. The nausea starts growing. So as they're wheeling me down there, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to begin an episode before they start. So they do the whole prep. They come and ask questions. He was like, I think I know what's going on. It's like dumping syndrome or something like that. Like you're just eating too much at once and your body's getting overwhelmed. I was like, nope. And then my heart rate jumps from 50, I was in the 50s to 130. And then the nurses come in, they're like, what's going on? And the guy's going on. I'm like, see, I have not eaten anything. I've not had any water, anything like that. Like it happens really bad when I haven't eaten anything. But it was amazing because the anesthesiologist had already come and checked in with me. And he came in and he was like, you're young. I think you're good. Do you want me to knock you out? And I was like, yes, please. And that was the best thing was he just grabbed the bed and wheeled it in there and like knocked me out within minutes. And when I woke up, my heart rate was acting normal again. I was like, okay, thank you.
Oh, well, mine was doing about the same thing. And dehydration could cause mine to do that too. Yep. But mine was doing it when I was sleeping. It was going from 39 to 175.
And that's a gross feeling. It's hard to explain to people. It's such a gross feeling. And then if you don't have water on your nightstand, you can't get it to calm down. If you stand up or move or anything, at least for me, like it gets so much worse. So I started sleeping. How I fixed that was like drinking electrolyte water at night. Like I read from some girls that you drink stuff with either salt water in it so it stays in your body a little bit, and then since then that's kicked it and I haven't had it happen, so gotten lucky.
Well, I hope they figured out how to deal with all of your stuff. So on this trip, did you do a lot of readings?
No, so I'm starting to do like where I do the readings at home, that way I can take my time, because like with these events they go by so fast and there's so much going on. And sometimes, like, depending on how the setup is, you don't know till you're there. And, with people coming and going, you're not going to have like as much as of an intimate reading. So I do a special where they book with me and then they get a phone reading. So it's like way cheaper than my website, and then more time too, because when you're at these events, like you got to do 10 minutes in between. If one person's late, it sets, the whole effect in place. So that's what I started doing. So I have a few readings that I actually got to get scheduled when we get done with this tonight. I'm like, my mind's been all over the place thinking about that. So yeah, I got that and students register. But yeah, that's how I do it now. And it's a lot more fun. I noticed that like I can actually enjoy it now. I can have conversations, not be, like, oh, I got to be back here. I got to eat at this time. Because if you eat too close to readings, it won't be as deep. Like it's harder to like hold the energy for some reason, It's
because all the energy's in your stomach trying to digest your food.
Yep. So I have to eat like a bird till I'm done with readings, and then I can eat all the steak and chicken and salads and everything that I want.
And you said students. What classes are you teaching?
Mediumship. So I have a 8-week mediumship course going on now. So I get together and have where I do live practice. Everybody votes on a time. It tends to work out pretty well. So, you know, a lot of us are working or moms or got stuff going on, or even like in California and all that. So I have everybody vote on a day and time, and then we get together for the live class. And then the rest is all self-paced, where you log in and watch the material, and you can log back in and watch, you know, as many times as you need to with each section, if you really like a section, or a meditation, because I got like guided meditations in there and things like that. So yeah, that's one of my favorite classes. And then I touch on like every single area I can. And basically I have people learn how their mediumship is set up, because we're all designed differently. It's just about connecting those dots. And then once you open that door, spirit does the rest.
How does mediumship work with paranormal investigating?
I love it with paranormal investigating. I know some people try to keep the two separate, but I like going into locations not knowing anything, especially if it's my first time there. I don't want to know anything. I want to walk through and see what I pick up on, because, you know, so many times like history's covered up, or things are forgotten, or things are twisted. Yep. Things are not right. So it's like, I like going in absolutely blind, seeing what I pick up on. And then it shifts, you know, like a lot of times people think that spirits are trapped, but in my experience, I've had where they more come and go, and because it can change so much, that's where I like, sometimes I'll get a feeling that like, okay, we're going to catch EVPs, or let me use this piece of equipment, or, you know, and then every spirit's different. Some know how to mess with electronics, like touching lights, REM pods, stuff like that. Other ones can get through their voice easier. So I like alternating it like that. But there's some really cool ones. Like I found this, or we had this EVP recorded, but we were at Glore. Is it Glore Asylum?
The Glore, Glore.
Glore. I want to say,
is it the one in St. Joe?
I cannot remember, because like every time I go to Event, Missouri, it's like Katie's like here, you know.
So yes, it's the Glore Psychiatric Museum in St. Joseph, Missouri.
One of the coolest things was like they came out and meet me, the two girls that were running the paranormal thing, and they're like, we haven't had too much happen. And I see behind them like half body of an apparition. I was like, I think it's about to change. But we go upstairs, and like they were like, this is the kids area, and I could tell like the kids were kind of being quiet or like timid. So I had to start telling jokes and stuff, and we had them actually laughing. You can hear a child laughing, and this is a group of 6 adults. You hear a child actually laughing response. And then one of them, I was like, I'm getting a pain in my neck, and I think somebody fell on the stairs and broke their neck. And I'm like, is that how you went? And there's a kid saying, yes, we were playing hide and seek. I fell on the stairs and hurt myself. And so that's where I love teaming like mediumship with the paranormal equipment, because you never know like what type of evidence you're going to get. But I just think it's like fascinating too, like, you know, having something like that where they could get through in both ways. It's pretty neat.
Has there been a time where you've had something come through that didn't match up with the history? Because that's what people thought happened. You know, basically it was a tulpa type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they start to, the people in the build, you know, the spirits in the building start to believe that.
The spirits in the building start to believe the history?
Start to believe the falsified history.
I haven't had that, but I have all the time where they come through and they're like, I really died from this, or I had this happen, or they have it marked in my record as this, or they have me marked as, especially like poor farms, like infirmary, like the Randolph County Infirmary. I think about that, where women were locked away from menopause, reading, you know, they had all sorts of stuff like in their records. You know, so I've had a lot of them come forward and straighten it out, you know, that basically their husband was having an affair and just wanted to dump them off. Like, stuff like that. And it was common. So that's been my experience. But yeah, a lot of times history is off. Or, like I'll pick up on I don't try to call in like historical figures or famous people or stuff like that, but I've had like where I picked up on things and then I'm like, okay, once it clicks, it's like, whoa. And then things have been different. Like Patrick Henry's house is over near mine. I've done an investigation there and they had me do like a walkthrough of where his wife was locked away. And yeah, I think that whole situation is very twisted. So it's marked that she was locked away, that she was insane. She had a lot going on, and then she was pregnant. And I can't remember. Some records have that it was a complicated pregnancy and it was tied to that. Some records have that she died just because she was insane, Alzheimer's, something like that. But I definitely feel like there was a lot of things that were covered up in history. And I think she found out information that she wasn't supposed to know. And that was the best way to deal with it.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird stuff.
I was surprised by that. Like, I was really surprised by it. I was like, oh, this doesn't match at all, And that's another thing that I don't like. If I had known the history walking in there, of knowing where I was and like her being in there, but I remember walking in and staring out the window and just being like, I want to get out that window, but I can't get out the window. And I didn't know who I was reading, who I was connecting to and all that. So then it's like afterwards when they told me, I'm like, whoa, that's a lot to take in.
I seem to recall from a tour that I took there. We're not going to say what year it was. I was not an adult. That she had a couple miscarriages and a couple stillborns.
And she still had a lot of children, didn't she? I think she had like 8 or 6 children. I can't remember.
But there was these other ones that she had lost, and they said that she was lost after that for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But we can understand that.
I did feel that in the depression, but I definitely felt like it was more about his political career and protecting that. And then, wasn't she the one that came from money? Like her family had money. And yeah, so I definitely got that it was more tied to that, making sure that things stayed controlled.
So we have a question here from Tom.
Mm-hmm.
He asks, do you share your findings with the owners of the places that you go?
Yes. Yep, definitely. I try to remember everything. I mean, sometimes I don't always remember everything. That's why I tend to write things down. But yeah, especially if they're open to it. I mean, I guess I cater it depending on if they want to know. Some owners, you'd be surprised. They're like, we get paranormal stuff here. I want to know if you get anything, but and then you have the ones that I don't want to know, but my wife thinks there's something going on. So I tend to see where they are and share with them depending on that. And of course, like what I can remember. And sometimes, most of the time they walk with me, they walk around with me just to see what I get. Like if we're working event and it's my first time there, that tends to be what happens, that the owner meet me and want to see what I get. And then we kick off the event, So I openly spew it out.
So you go to a lot of public events.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, how often do you know something about the place that you're going just because you know something about the place that you're going? Like when you went to the McIntyre Villa. That's where we met.
Yeah.
But there's history out there. There's stuff that people say. Do you listen to that or in advance? I mean, or are you like me and it goes in this ear and out that ear and you don't retain it because you're going?
I'll be like, I can't know anything. I can't know anything. So McIntyre Villa, I'd never heard of. And Katie is the one that brought me in on that event and, Sydney and stuff like that. So Katie knows I don't want to know anything. And she would get excited at times to be like, oh, and there's and then because I was like, I'm seeing something with the older man on the porch. And I feel like there's another newer man, which was the owner's father just passed, and I was like, there's something about somebody from the past there. And Katie would get all excited. She's like, oh, I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm not going to tell you anything until you're here. So that one, I never heard of McIntyre Villa. I didn't know anything about. And God, I was blown away, blown away. Like there's a lot there. There's a lot on that land already. And then everything that happened in that house, there's many, many layers. So that's, I think,
There is, and I could tell you stories about the town and
and
every
how we both got marked, was really, really interesting. So I
what?
think how we both got marked as
Oh
well.
yeah.
And then I had the shaman. That's the first time I've had a shaman like work on me to like cleanse it, because it kept coming back and burning again, and then it was changing shape where my scratch marks were in my arm, and I've never seen that. That was the first time I've ever been burned or scratched. And I remember sitting there with Katie, and I think I was with Katie, the owner, and maybe two other people, and I said, I can feel where my collarbone is burning. I think something's burning me, and it almost feels like a cigarette or a cigar burn. And I just held my shirt to the side, and they watched it appear. And sure enough, in the photos, and then I felt like a line, like almost like a metal rod was laid on me and burned me here. And the same thing, I just held my shirt to the side, and they watched the red line appear. And we got pictures of that, and it's unreal. But and then I found out they would burn witches, and they kept calling me a witch on Katie's radio. So they would burn witches, so if they escaped, they would know if they caught him again.
What's fun here, Christopher Pittman says, Stephanie, it's a great place. Stephanie O'Reilly is really awesome. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
But I also agree that the Garrity's were very nice people. We got to meet them. We met them during the weekend of the eclipse back in 2017. And it was amazing to be in there with all the furnishings from the family.
Wow. I didn't know who that was. So was that?
Yeah, they're the people who actually own the house that Stephanie's father bought it from.
Oh, wow.
So I met that. So every once in a while, she'll say something, and I'll say, I remember that from when we filmed there,
Mm-hmm.
and she'll go, tell me about that, because she didn't own it then when we were there in 2017. So, because we were there in August of 2017, and I think she bought it in 2018 or 2019. So,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of different things related to that. But again, when we were doing the tours in Atchison, it was one of the places that we would stop and we would have to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So I know the history of the building based on what Atchison said is true.
Yeah. I got a lot there. I mean, there was some weird stuff with gambling, business deals, and then there's like horses. That's one thing I remember is horses buried on the property. Like they liked them close to the house for some reason, or like they bonded with the horses. So I don't know. But then I was also seeing fires, and like way back before that house was even there, Native American battles going on. And so I kind of feel like that land is like cursed, but I feel like that goes for the whole section. There's a lot going on there.
Something unusual is there was a cemetery not far from their house, from the McIntyre Villa,
Mm-hmm.
that it was one of the cemeteries that was used for when people died of disease.
Mm.
And a lot of these people came from Missouri over to Atchison. They came from Caldwell County. They were run out of the state of Missouri because they were stealing and all this other stuff. It's a long story. I'm not going to get into that, but they went to Atchison. Some went to Atchison, some went to St. Joe, some went up to Iowa. But I found a group of these people that were kicked out of the state of Missouri went to Atchison, and they started their own little piece of property not too far from the McIntyre Villa. And a bunch of people died from different diseases, and they buried them there in this graveyard. And for some reason, there's never been a house put on this property. They said that they moved all the graves, all kinds of stuff. Okay. But there is a graveyard not too far from there of unmarked graves.
That's interesting. That's really weird.
But there's other stories that are not true in Atchison. And
I
like I
still
said, I'm
don't
not
know
gonna,
the full history. I know I got a lot with horses and saddles. I do know something with saddles, and then the woman with music. But I mean, I don't know. It's such a wide
Goldie.
variety of stuff there.
Yeah. Goldie's huge history with the house there in the McIntyre Villa. But like I said, I could tell you random shit about all the haunted places in town. It's amazing how much crap I have in my head still
Yeah,
about that place. I mean, I have history on the Sally house at least this thick. That's not even counting half the stuff I have on my computer that
yeah,
I never printed.
yeah.
So,
Research stuff is hard. It's hard, but like I think emotional things like connect in with you, especially when you picked up on that energy or you had like experience with investigating. So when you see that article or that is the coolest thing to me. I have so many screenshots shared in my phone because that's what I'll do, like to kind of turn my brain off when I go back to the hotel room or like even back home. I'll just get curious, think about it, and start researching. And I remember, I think the owner, I can't think of the name now, but I know he kept sharing name of like 3 horses. He kept mentioning 3 horses, like, so I don't know if he did like betting or racing or what, but I can't think of the names now. But I was like searching that because that's what it felt like. It felt like racehorses.
I don't remember any racetracks being up there, but they did have, a lot of they had the carriage house. I mean, you saw where that used to be. They did have that. And the builder was, well, the guy who built the house or paid to have it built. He was Irish.
Mm.
And I have to say, the Irish love their horses.
Yeah, it's interesting. So
So,
maybe it was the horses that were buried there. I don't know, but yeah, it almost felt like they were pets or like family, just so they kept them close by.
do you get that same feeling about horses when you're in Smithville?
Um, I'm not sure. I don't. I
Think
just
about it the next time you're there.
which one's Smithville? Like if you
Where
say,
Katie and Katie live.
oh yes, yeah, I told them that, and I
Okay.
told them like I even saw like a vision of a horse like coming through the house because it's like current houses now, but I saw like I walked out one night and like I saw like a horse like coming through the houses, but it was like a spirit horse, and I'm like, that's interesting. That's something I hadn't seen because I normally don't get the elementals or like animals. I like occasionally will see spirits. Most of the time I feel them, but I mean, it was like I could see through it, so I could tell it was like a spirit. But I was like, that's interesting. So wonder what that's about.
There used to be a racetrack in Smithville.
Wow, that's
So
really cool.
Frank James used to be one of the people that would welcome, shooting off the gun to make the horses run.
Yeah,
So,
that's cool.
so we have another question here from Tom Nicholas, or he says, I heard recently that people's ears start ringing when spirits want to reach out to you. I had my ears ring when I was on an investigation, so I was just wondering. So is there any truth to that?
Oh yeah, all the time. And like mediumship, like when they're really trying to get my attention, especially if I'm not saying anything, like if I'm like there's times where I've done events and then there's like a social event afterwards, they'll keep like taking out my hearing by doing ringing if somebody's really trying to get through a message. But yeah, it's kind of like them syncing their energy with you. So there's a good chance you're clairaudient, like very clairaudient, because that's something that happens to a lot of people that can occasionally hear spirits. But yeah, I think it's like them merging their energy in with you, and your body kind of adjusts to the frequency and picks up on it. So if you're falling asleep, a lot of times you'll have that happen too, where they'll be able to get through to you.
What is your favorite? You're a medium. So what is the skill that you bring to the table when it comes to paranormal investigating? Is it hearing, seeing, all of it, smells?
I mix it in. Like I tend to like I'm very clairsentient, so I'll feel like physical pains in my body. Like I used to carry Tylenol all the time when I was ghost hunting, and I didn't put it together for the longest time, but I'll get a lot of physical pains in my body. So I'll start to know like if somebody died of sickness, or if their lungs felt heavy, their heart, or if it was like a murder, somebody was shot, stabbed. I've been doing it long enough now that I can put together what things feel like. But yeah, that tends to be the first thing that my body interacts with. And then other than that, I go off of what I'm feeling pulled to do. Like if I get that ringing in my ear, I'll be like, now might be a good time. Like, because that's normally when they're trying to talk to you and sync with you to get a message. I'll say now would be a time, like we'll probably catch EVPs. And then if we do EVP sessions and like burst sessions, we tend to get feedback pretty quick. Or sometimes, use a spirit box or something like that they can talk. That's normally when I have that happen. But yeah, smells like come and go. It's really interesting. Like Birdcage Theater, we went in. Me, Karen, Lynn, Greg Lawson's wife, and yeah, a few of us, like it was like 5 of us. We snuck away before the event started that day and went in Birdcage Theater before it got too busy. And there was like this like wind that passed by, and I smelled the strongest BO. So I thought some other man had like come in, because it was all of us women. I thought some man had come in, and I caught Karen Dahlman had like turned around. She works for the Talking Historical Board site. Yeah, it was funny. Like her and me both, she was like, what is that BO? Like, where'd that come from? So it was like some male like ran up onto the stage. Like it was interesting. But yeah, so normally smells come in like that, or I'll smell burning. One time in Atlanta, Georgia, I can't remember. Oh, I cannot think of it. It's been used in movies and like Vampire Diaries, stuff like that, like for filming. I can't think of the name of the building, but it has beautiful stained glass, like going up the staircase, stuff like that. And that one, I kept smelling fires. Like nobody was smelling it. And I was like, hey, it started off like campfires, but now it's just like a lot of smoke. And then one other person could smell it too. And she's also a medium. Like, we've since then learned that, as my friend Sheena. But we found out it was the anniversary of when they had burned down. I think it was like all the way to the riverbank, and that house was on the riverbank. And that house, that mansion was like one of them that it took some damage, but it wasn't fully wiped out. But it was like the 200-year anniversary, something like that. It was crazy. It was a big anniversary when that fire happened. But I mean, I was smelling it so strong, like almost wanted to leave, like couldn't get fresh air type smell, and like other people couldn't smell it at all. And I was like, that is really interesting. I mean, all of it is how these experiences happen.
And that was in Atlanta?
Yes, it's something.
Or was it Savannah?
Nope, it was Atlanta. It was definitely Atlanta. If something with an R was the name of the location. They used to do investigations there on a regular basis. I remember that. It's like every 2 or 3 months they had an investigation at this mansion. It's definitely something with an R is what the property is named after.
Yeah, I can't think of it.
Yeah.
The first thing I thought of was the Sorrel Weed House in Savannah.
I just remember the staircase. Like once I see the staircase, I'll be able to think of it again. I almost want to say it's like roses, but it's really tall stained glass windows, like going up the staircase. I cannot think of it. I keep wanting to say Rosemont, but that's Tennessee. That's a different property.
Yeah, that definitely like different.
Or something like that. I don't know. It's gonna, of course, click after and be like, there it is. I'm always names. Yeah.
So, Rhodes.
Yes, Rhodes Hall, right? Rhodes Hall.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeep. So it was Jeep.
Thank you. Yeah, I was like, it's something with an R that's like killing me.
Yeah. I have not ever been to Atlanta except the airport, and that was haunted in a way that I never want to go back there.
Yeah. I used to love Atlanta Airport because they have like good ice cream, like TCBY and all that. But like the past few times I've traveled through there, they've been horrible with gate changes. And they'll just like change it so quick and then not care if you don't make the new gate. Like there was one time we were sitting there, get ready board, and they changed it. and we like ran and barely made our flight, and they were trying to close the doors, and it's like, y'all are the ones doing this. It was just, it's gotten out of control there. It's crazy. A lot of canceled flights too, and being stuck there.
The only thing I liked about it is, you said ice cream. They had a really good Popeyes in the airport.
I miss Popeyes. I bet it's good.
You guys don't have, well, yeah, you guys probably have Bojangles.
Please, I can't eat it anymore.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a different problem. I was going to say,
Yep.
because I had Bojangles in Maryland.
Yeah. But I love Popeyes. Popeyes is good.
We eat there about once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, but it's good though. Like it's
I like chicken with the skin on. I know I'm not supposed to eat the skin, but I love it.
yeah. Oh, chicken legs. I've always been big on chicken legs, like other than the gluten allergy. But there's times I've cooked them myself at home, but it's just still not the same. It's so much work. And then making sure the chicken's done all the way, I always get paranoid that I'm not going to cook it all the way.
I used to make Bisquick oven fried chicken.
Oh yeah, I've heard that's good.
I can't use the oven, but once it gets over 80 degrees, we don't use the oven in our house.
Yeah.
See, now that we moved to Florida, that gives me 3 months to use it, where before it used to be there was 4 months I couldn't use the oven, and now I can only use it for 3.
Yeah. Yep. It heats up the house too much.
Yep. Tonight we had shrimp in the air fryer.
I love an air fryer.
I'm just starting to really use mine.
Oh man, if you get French fries or DoorDash or anything, like we freeze French fries now. Like when we go Chick-fil-A, we'll freeze what we don't eat and then warm them up in there, and it's like they're super fresh. So, or if we get fries delivered, because we have kids, so we DoorDash all the time. But if they're not crispy enough, we toss it in there. And chicken like gets a weird taste to me if I like, whether I put it in a skillet to re-warm it up or a microwave or oven, but like for some reason air fryer, it doesn't get that weird taste. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
You mean the recooked oil?
No, like it's got this like, I don't know, it tastes like older chicken. It has this weird taste, but for some reason, like I can warm up chicken in the air fryer and it doesn't have that taste. It like cooks right, like it's fresh.
Like I said, I've been using it a lot more for different things, and I marinated some shrimp tonight, and it didn't have some of the ingredients I had to make do. And I tried it, and I'm going, yes, air fryers are paranormal, especially when they're haunted. Put dead stuff in it, and we bring it to life. It's an amazing trick.
What's funny is I have a friend that he says his air fryer will make noises in the night. And it's like he got like a fancy air fryer, and it like the buttons and stuff will make noise in the night. So he's like trying to figure it out, and he's like, I think something's in my kitchen.
Well, then he needs to unplug it.
Yeah, so he does. He does. He gets up and unplugs it because he's like, that's just creepy.
So what is your favorite meal before you go paranormal investigating?
Coffee. Yeah, I do love coffee. I tend to get like egg bites or something like that, a little bit that's going to keep me full for a while. But yeah, on investigations, I like to snack a lot too. So I have like trail mix and things like that. So I tend to eat like lighter, because if I eat too much, then I get tired and run down, and my mediumship isn't like as attuned. But yeah, that's normally what I like to do. And then afterwards is when it's like Mexican. It's always Mexican the next day. We always end up getting Mexican.
Well, I know that when we were together, all I noticed that you were doing was snacking the whole time.
Oh, beef jerky. Oh yeah. Oh, because they had everything that they had, like there was no gluten-free. And then they went and did a Taco Bell run, and somebody ate my chicken tacos, and like so I couldn't have the beef ones. So somebody mixed it up, but that or either Taco Bell forgot, and it was like a long drive away. It's where Taco Bell was. So yeah, I was like snacking on beef jerky.
Yep, that was. So we got a question here from you. Kevin Scallion asks, what is the scariest paranormal experience you've had?
I don't like, it's weird. I'm trying to think of like where I've been freaked out. But I would say like that would be my dreams, like where I've had really intense dreams. But like in person, I didn't get scared at McIntyre Villa. I got irritated when I got burned and scratched. But I would probably say that would be it, because when I listened to the EVPs, I couldn't believe how much hate was there, because I'm used to like certain amount of hate to a degree. If the owner's like, hey, can you look in and see what happened in this area, or I'm telling their secrets, I have a lot of men come forward like, F off, like back off, like, get her out of here, stuff like that. But we were just sitting there just trying to connect to, I think the owner was trying to call in somebody and get answers. And I was just sitting there. I wasn't interacting. But I had a woman like laughing, and then a male saying, I want to punch Jessica in the effing face. And then another male was like interacting with him and talking about like, ooh, psychic, like. And then that was the night I got burned and scratched. So some of it was kind of funny, but I was like, man, that's a lot of weird hate just for me sitting there. I wasn't even reading with my mediumship. So I would say that's the one that, messed me up a little bit. Like where I made a second trip back there because I'm like, what's going on with this location? But that one was pretty creepy because it would get heavy. Like you'd feel the depression. You'd feel the room change.
Yeah. And it was a strange night. Both you and I got marked that night.
The other kid too, the young teenager, that he got scratched on his arm and ran all the way to the car. Like his mom didn't even know what happened and had to go check on him. And he wouldn't talk about it. He said he wanted to leave. He was scratched as well. And I think there was somebody else, one other woman was scratched.
Was that on Friday night, that scratching? Because I wasn't there Friday.
It was the first night that the kid ran out. I mean, I want to say he was like 18, 19. He, like I say kid, but he was like about that age, and he wanted to go there real bad. His mom was the one that was like hesitant, and then he beelined it to the car and was at the car and wouldn't tell her what happened. And she wrote in about it and said what happened because everyone was concerned, but they just peeled out and left.
So Kevin, my most terrifying experience with the paranormal, I would have to say, is also in Atchison. It was the Sally house. I was in the basement getting ready for daytime tours to start. And Ron and Carl, Ron's my husband, Carl is the producer of the show, and they were upstairs outside talking, and I had a fold-up metal chair thrown 6-7 feet across the room of the basement at me. I was up the stairs and outside and white as a sheet. And I had been scratched there, I don't know how many times, but that was probably the most serious.
I haven't had anything big like that. The biggest thing that I think, it wasn't the scariest one for me, but it was pretty funny. I thought it was cool. Like I got excited about it, but oh my gosh, Ray County Museum, right? That place, the Native American room. So Megan Medley and me were like sitting there, and we kept hearing this wood scratching, and we're under like the display case, and on the spirit box, I remember it kept coming through saying something bear, like the Native American bear, chief bear or something like that. And when we stood up, we ended up seeing like the book was open to that chief, but we heard like scratching like under the wood. I assumed it was her. She assumed it was me. And then she finally said, why do you keep doing that scratching? And I was like, I'm not. And she heard it like right beside her head. And when she turned her head, she saw, like, she said it looked like some figure like crouched down, and then it was gone. And she jumped into my lap. And then right after that, like the flashlight that was across the room, like kicked and like rolled. It was like somebody kicked it and rolled, but nobody was in that area of the room. There was only 3 of us in there. But that one, like she laughs at that one because it scared the crap out of her. But it was funny. It was going on for a while. And, we both just assumed it was the other person. And then she finally asked, like, why do you keep doing that scratching? I'm like, I'm not doing that scratching. Like it was straight, like somebody slowly dragging their nails, like probably about 2 feet, and then doing it again. It was really weird. It was cool though.
One of the funny ones that we had was long time ago. It seems like now we were at the John Warnell house, in Kansas City, Missouri. And we had some people there that had never paranormal investigated before. It was their very first time coming out. And we're in one of the children where there was a children's room, and the spirits weren't interacting, didn't like the men. It was used as a military hospital during the Civil War. Everybody went into Kansas City, Missouri, and, proper. And this was on the outskirts of town at that time. And so the guys were in there, and the kids would not talk. Nobody would talk. There was nothing. So the guys go, we're going to leave. So us girls stayed in there, and we had something going on. And somebody said something that, it was audible. I could hear it. Apparently so could the girl that was sitting next to me. And she jumped into my lap, basically, and she didn't leave my side the rest of the night, because she was then terrified of every sound that was there. So Kevin asks, Denise, what was your first paranormal experience? What convinced you? I'm going to ask you that question, Jessica. What was your first paranormal experience that convinced you?
So paranormal, it's hard as a medium, because I run a family, the biggest one was when my uncle passed away, knowing what time he was declared dead. And I thought everybody had those experiences. I was like, oh, with family, everybody has those experiences where they hear, their family members come through and deliver a message. But paranormal, some of the coolest things that I think I've experienced was this one time at, somewhere else in Georgia. I remember that a friend took me there. No, Tennessee. I had them ask me to come out and do investigation, and it was Ripavilla Plantation, and they had it during COVID. But yeah, that was seeing the apparitions form. I'd be like, hey, that kind of looks like mist. And then I'm like, that's taking a shape. That's turning into a skirt. That is a woman wearing a blue dress. I got to actually see it take shape and form. And I was like, that part is, to me, it was really cool. But yeah, I've seen some stuff depending on the equipment too. I mean, I think spirit boxes are amazing. Especially when they're cussing and making sense, interacting. Thomas House, and that's in Red Boiling Springs, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. But I've had the same woman come through 2 different trips out there, and that's an 8-hour drive or something like that. But in the same room, and it has a creek running underneath it. But you hear her crying. She's talking about her baby, and it was the second time I came there. That was a really weird experience because it was picking up a conversation. And so that type of stuff, it's that's where it's gosh, there's a lot to this. It's really cool.
And Ripavilla is in Franklin, Tennessee area. And it's on our list of places to go. They weren't open the days that we went.
Oh,
so, but we did go down there.
Time tour is worth it. I mean, we saw apparitions out in the battlefield, and then it would glitch and they would move closer. And all of us, I mean, there was 4 of us. And we're did that just move up by 10 feet? And then we saw, we turned and we saw a guy leaning over. We were in the slave graveyard, and he was leaning over this, and you could tell he was looking at us what are y'all doing here? Curious about us. It was really interesting. All of us were able to show how his arms were. We could see the outline of him, and you could just tell he was looking at us curious, what are y'all doing here? Type of thing. It was very interesting.
Yeah. So Kevin, my answer for you is my first experience was an out-of-body experience when I was 4 years old. I saw my grandmother be killed, and I was in New Jersey. She was in Baltimore, and I happened to tell my parents when the phone rang, before the phone rang, that it was my grandfather calling to say that my grandmother had died. And of course, he knew she died because he killed her, but that wasn't the story my family was told. But what I saw ended up being the truth. And then when I was 10, I had another out-of-body experience and witnessed my father being murdered.
God.
So I pretty much grew up believing that there was something different out there that we can't always touch and see and feel. It's there.
Yeah, sometimes it just connects to us. Because I've
So
had people ask me that too. They're like, do you pick up on how I'm going to die? And it's like, no. Like, I've known with certain family members, like, same thing, like with the call, but I haven't had it that intense where I'm able to, or like where, at least not for me, but I've also asked to not see that stuff. Yeah, like, but I'll, like, a phone will ring or I'll wake up from my sleep and know, I'll be like, okay, like when my papa passed, I was like, okay, my papa just passed. Yeah.
I've had experiences like that as well. Outside of the out of body experiences, I've had different times where I knew that something was going to happen, but I didn't know what I knew. It
Mhm.
was like, I feel like something's going to happen, but you don't know until something triggers you to know that
Yep.
that's truly what the message was. I can't believe anybody would want to know their expiration date.
Yeah, I think it's weird too. Like, and I feel like we have multiple exits. That's my experience because I've been told, like, one girl, like, she was in a car accident and she knows, like, she was supposed to pass, or she felt like she was supposed to pass. She had dreams about it, everything like that. And when she asked me about it and I tapped in, I was like, was this when you were this age? And they said that was one of her exit points, and she chose last minute to state that there's a whole different path she wanted to go on with. So it's really interesting. I think there's just a lot more to it that we can't fully understand till we're over there.
And I think that that's the case. I don't know if everybody gets to pick left or right at
I
that
think it's
time.
something done on the other side, or either when we're sleeping. I don't know. That was like the feeling I got, was somehow she'd chosen to shift her path.
Yeah, I don't know. I when I think about it, like, you have psychics all the time that tell you what is going to happen in your future. But the thing is that's based on the fact that if you walk out the door and you go right, it's going to go this way. But if I walk out the door and I go left, it's not going to match up with anything she said,
Yep.
because the free will part of this.
Yep.
And
And you got
some of the things that they tell you,
yeah.
you want it so bad that you're going to try to make that happen. And I just don't have any desire to actually go to a psychic to be told one thing. And what is the difference between a psychic and a medium?
So psychic more picks up on energy like that, like energy around the person. And that's the thing too with psychic energy. People don't realize that that can easily shift. So psychic would be more the energy around the person, the energy attached to person. So like in the person's mind, they want this to happen, but most likely all the pieces are lined up for this to happen, or they've been through this in their life, or they have this going on in their physical body. So that would be the psychic. Mediumship is where it expands past that, where you're connecting into spirits on the other side and things that happen to them, and things tied energy wise to the living person. So that's the difference with psychic and mediumship. And psychic can go for animals, that can go for trees, that can go for land. Everything has energy vibrating. So you're going to pick up on all of that. But yeah, exactly, with free will, like if you were to tell somebody that they're going to get a job and then they sit back and don't do anything about it, don't work towards it, or study or prepare themselves, it can easily shift, because then they just like accepted that energy and didn't do anything about it to grow that energy themselves to meet. So there's a lot to free will, especially when other people are involved. That's where I really struggle with, like, relationships and things like that, or where am I going to meet, like, my next lover or boyfriend, and this and that. And that's where I prefer the mediumship side, because that can always change. Whoever you're dating, their energy can change, or they can change their mind, or job affects this, and this. There's a lot of pieces to it.
There is, like I said, I don't want to know my expiration date. I don't want to know what somebody else thinks my career path is supposed to be, and I'm supposed to be working towards that. You know,
Yeah.
I'm just me. I'm going to go my route. And have you ever had an out of body experience?
Yes. Oh man. I've had some really cool ones. Again, all around dreaming. I've had a few where I've been like daydreaming or zoned out, working missing person cases. I remember that one time I completely zoned out driving home. And when I like came to or like realized, I was at the spot where a girl's body had been found. And I was confused. I couldn't remember the last bit of my drive or how I got there. And it was on a private property. It was tied to a private property where the creek ran back through. So I wanted to get out. Like I could tell I was being pulled. It was unsolved at the time her body had been found, but like they didn't know what had happened. I kept wanting to get out and walk it, but I was like, no, I need to go home. That one weirded me out. But I had a visitation dream where my ex, when he passed away, in the dream, like it was, he was staying there telling me messages, and he gave me a hug, and he was like, while he was hugging, it started tilting us, but he's like telling me, tell my brother this, tell my mom this, tell my, like delivering these messages. And then I felt like dropping through these layers. And I slammed onto the bed and it woke me up. My eyes are open and I could still hear him like finishing up his messages to pass along. And so that one weirded me out. Like, so I'm thinking I traveled somehow through the layers. I've yet to have that experience again, but it was really, really cool.
And Kevin, when I had my out of body experience at 4, I don't remember if I was awake, asleep, or whatever, but it happened during the day. So, but I was 4, I could have still been napping. I don't know. But when I was 10, I was mostly awake. I couldn't sleep that night because I had been really mean to my father. In fact, I just told somebody this the other day. They were on Facebook saying that they wanted to kill themselves because their daughter told them that they hated him and wished they would die.
Wow.
And I had told my dad that the night he died, the night he was murdered.
Gosh.
But I was 10, and so it was my fault. For the longest time, it was my fault. But that night, I see all this stuff that's going on. And finally, my dad died around 2:00 in the morning. About 3:00 in the morning, I guess I fell asleep and I got up. I think it was about 7:30 in the morning on July 3rd. And I walked out in the kitchen and didn't think anything of it, of my dad's girlfriend sitting at the table with my mother. My mother and father were still married, but my dad and mom had broken up over this girlfriend who was my mom's best friend. So you got to take notes now, people. Got to take notes. And so I walk up to them and I tell them everything that happened from the time that they got to my grandfather's house to the time that my father died, including his last words. And my dad's girlfriend looked at my mother and said, "That's the truth. That's what happened." And my mom said, she looked at me and she says, don't tell anybody what you can see. They're going to lock you up.
Yeah.
So, and in 1975, they would have.
Yep.
I mean, it is what it is. And what's really bad is we went to the funeral. It was a few days later. We went to Virginia, went to Gretna, and went to my dad's funeral. And I saw my dad walking around. Okay.
Wow.
I didn't think nothing of it. And I remember looking at him and saying, why aren't you coming with us? Why are you doing this? In fact, I believed for years that he faked his death. He looked so clear.
Wow.
And, it was hard. I mean, every time I turned around, I was looking for my dad, no matter where I went, whether it was in Arkansas after I got married or, I think I finally believed that he was gone when I was about 21, when I gave birth to my first kid. I think that's when I believed that he was finally gone, that he wasn't going to show up. But yeah, he looked as solid as me and you at his funeral. I mean, he was. I mean,
I've seen him like that. It's very trippy. Like a Mothman, actually visiting the town that Mothman happened in. I saw a naked guy walking down the street, and like I saw him solid. So I was like, are they filming a movie? I'm looking around and nobody's responding. And that was what my mind went to. I was like, somebody's got to be filming a movie. And then he just disappeared, like fully solid. And then he was there 1 second, just gone the next. Like it was, that part was like really weird to me. It made no sense.
Well, West Virginia is weird anyway.
Yeah, it is. I was like, I don't know what that was about, but I mean, he just disappeared in front of my eyes. And I'm like, well, that's probably why nobody was responding. They couldn't see him.
Right. And but at 10, it didn't, like I said, 1975, I'm 10 years old.
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't know why I'm seeing him walking around and in there. Why isn't he coming over to me? And my family, people think it's macabre that they would take pictures at funerals, but in a lot of times back then, it was a family reunion.
Mm-hmm.
So not only were you taking pictures of the person that was laid out, you were taking pictures of everybody else as well. But I know that seems odd to people these days. But
not to me though. Death photos I've always thought were cool, or the hair braided wreaths. I love that.
Yeah, I talked to the people we're talking to tomorrow night. Hill City Paranormal, they're out of Lynchburg, Virginia. Well, my dad was born in Lynchburg. And I told them, if you go to Gretna, here's the thing you can investigate. Go, investigate my dad's grave and my grandmother. They're buried right next to each other. I didn't tell them why. You're not going to know what my maiden name was if I don't tell you. Everybody knows me as Denise Pridemore. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to know that this story that I tell is related to these people. I just told them to investigate these two graves, not that they're related to me at all. I want to find out what they get. Because I know what I'm going to get if I go.
When are they investigating it?
I don't know. I'll find out more tomorrow.
That'd be cool to see what they get.
It will be. And because I can at least validate some things, but yeah, half the people buried in that graveyard are my family. And I never even met half of them. Oh yeah. No, I'm not in the Hatfield family, but I have investigated the Hatfields and McCoys, the graveyard that they're buried in right next to each other, which I find funny is that the Hatfields and McCoys are buried. Here's their plot. Here's their plot. So check out the Dills Cemetery, Kevin. So, do you investigate graveyards at all? Or do you just like walking through them?
I like walking through them. I think they're like so peaceful, but yeah, I've investigated graveyards. I've just found that a lot of times they're not there, like comes and goes, or it's beings that have like protected the land or moved in that are near the land. I tend to get stuff like that more than like interactive communication. But yeah, but during the daytime, I absolutely love graveyards. So I love doing recordings in graveyards or spirit boxes. Like one of the last ones I did was, oh my gosh, Middletown, Virginia. There's like a Civil War cemetery there. And they executed 7 people on the spot there at the end of the war. And so like there's a little memorial place there. There's a group burial. And so we did Spirit Box and we did EVP. And when we were doing EVPs, we said we were getting lots of like, look for my last name is Smith, my first name's Michael, like stuff like that. It was pretty interesting. They'd say higher up the hill. And then I just reviewed the evidence where I was asking, how they were killed or like what happened. And I said, what number were you? And one of them said 7, the very last damn one to be killed. And I didn't get how they were killed, if it was by gun or like hanging, but it was really interesting. It was like kind of sad. It was like, I can only imagine the anxiety of that. But yeah, that was one of the most interactive ones I've had at a cemetery. Otherwise, it's like hard to track who's coming and going.
We find that when I was growing up, Sundays were lunch at the cemetery day, picnic day. So we would go and visit whatever cemetery was near us that had a family member in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just got used to being in a cemetery from a very young age. So, I mean, long story short, I hadn't been to my father's grave since 1975 until I went there in 1999. Okay. Never been there. Didn't know, I was there when I was 10. Drove right to it.
Wow. Yeah, that happens a lot.
And knew exactly where it was. And of course, back then you didn't have the internet like you do now, where you could do Google Earth and find it, or
find
anything
a grave.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. If Find a Grave existed, it was more newspaper articles that you would have to dig up. And I lived in Kansas City, so Baltimore City, the Baltimore Sun wasn't available for me to look stuff up. And I don't know if the Baltimore Sun even had where my dad was buried.
I don't think so. I think they just do the obituary piece.
Well, yeah, they'll say they're being buried in,
or where the funeral is, and that's normally tends to be it.
Yeah, and of course, my dad's body was transported from Baltimore to Gretna, all kinds of stuff. But we are just about out of time. Where can everybody find you?
So my website is starloveclarity.com or themermaidmedium.com. On Facebook, I'm Jessica Potter, Intuitive Medium. You can send me a friend request. For whatever reason, my business page, it's like I don't get the notifications clearly because that's where you sent the link. I was sitting there waiting, and that's why I was like, I'm going to say checking in. But yeah, if you look up Jessica Potter and then look up people, Jessica Potter Intuitive Medium, and you can send me a friend request. And then you'll be able to see what I got going on and, things coming up, events I'm doing. Do Ashmore. I got Ashmore Estates this next weekend. So I just got home and now, going to be making like a 10-hour drive to Illinois. I normally fly there and rent a car. And I was like doing the math. And I'm like, it's the same amount of time with how long I have to get to the airport and then waiting on a rental car and then driving down the 4 hours. So I was like, that makes no sense to not just, drive it, especially
and
this way.
You're in control. You're in control. We're going to Ashmore in October. And I've been there 2 other times, but every other time we've been asked to go, something has kept me from going. Don't know what it is, but in October I'm going, whether it tries to keep me from going or not.
Yeah.
Even if I can't go inside the building, I'm going.
Well, and check it out in the daytime. See what you get in the daytime. It is really active.
I got scratched.
Yeah,
I got scratched there. And in 2018, it was right after that, I was in the hospital with a collapsed lung. So it wasn't long. Yeah. So I have some bad history at Ashmore.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah.
It is what it is. But, guys, join us here every Monday night for the Paranormal Pride. Next week, my guest is Ronnie D. He owns Old South Pittsburgh Hospital and Harriman Hospital in Tennessee. And tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Central on Paranormal Nation Radio, Not So Normal, we're going to have on Hill City Paranormal. Sean and Courtney are going to come back on, and we're going to talk with them a little bit more and see what they have to share and see what's going on in Virginia. See if they're going to make it to the graveyard in Gretna and see what they find. So I hope everybody has a great night. And if you're affected by the storms, just know you're in our prayers and we're thinking about you. So, otherwise, Have a great night and see you soon.